My best friend framed me for armed robbery and forced me to take the fall. So when I got out, I spent years digging up evidence and sent him to prison. 7 years later, he's writing letters teaching others to frame people, and one of his victims came to me for help. My best friend framed me for armed robbery and ruined my life, so I exposed him and watched him go to prison. 2 years later, he sent his cousin to threaten my friends. I didn't realize the night I got arrested would end with 3 cracked ribs and a felony charge. 10 minutes earlier, I'd been walking home from a house party with my best friend Jake. I was arguing with my mom on the phone when he said he wanted to stop at the gas station for a beer. I nodded, kept walking a few feet ahead, pacing while I tried to calm my mom down. A few minutes later, Jake caught up to me, slightly out of breath, said the line was long, and handed me his jacket since I was shivering. We made it about 4 blocks before the cop cars swarmed. They tackled me hard, slammed me to the pavement, cuffed me before I could say anything. I couldn't breathe. They kept shouting about the robbery, about a mask, about a weapon. I didn't understand any of it. At the station, they pulled surveillance stills from the gas station footage. The guy in the mask was wearing a jacket that looked a lot like Jake's, except now, it was on me. My fingerprints weren't on the register, but they found cash stashed in my room. Later, I found out Jake had hidden it there. He visited me once, said, I panicked. I didn't think it would go this far. Just do the time. It's juvie, man. You'll be out in no time. I wanted to scream, but I was 17. I didn't have proof. Just a broken body, a public defender, and a judge who said I needed to be made an example. I spent 9 months in juvie. When I got out, the world had moved on. My mom didn't fully believe me. My friends didn't text. My record followed me everywhere. I took what work I could get. Cleaning, warehouse loading, whatever paid under the table. Jake, he was doing great. He even dated someone I used to like back in school. I tried not to care. Then one night, scrolling on a cousin's Instagram, I saw a photo. It was Jake on the night of the party, wearing the same jacket he gave me. Same patch, same rip on the cuff. I checked the timestamp. Same night, same hour. I pulled up the police report and felt my heart race. The times matched. I spent the next week tracking everything. Jake's location check-ins, any and all photos taken and posted the night of the robbery. Then I remembered the hardware shop across the street from that gas station. I walked in, explained I was looking for footage for a school project, and asked if they ever kept old camera archives. The owner handed me a dusty USB, said their dad was a hoarder and refused to get rid of anything, even security footage, so they rarely deleted. The footage didn't show the robbery, but it showed a guy matching Jake's build, wearing that exact jacket, walking into the gas station right when the robbery went down, and me, standing outside, on the phone. I sent it to my old public defender. She didn't respond, so I contacted a local legal clinic that helps with wrongful convictions. A volunteer attorney, Matt, met with me. He believed me, said this might qualify for a review. Then it got worse. Jake found out. He showed up outside the warehouse where I worked, pulled me aside and hissed, "Why are you digging this up? You're gonna ruin my life again." I pulled out my phone, recording. He didn't notice. He kept going. "You already took the fall. Let it go. You think anyone's gonna believe you now? You're a felon. I'm a manager." That night, I posted a photo of the jacket, the timestamps, and said nothing else. Just, "Still think I wore this?" Jake panicked, went into a school alumni group and claimed I was stalking him, harassing him, said I was obsessed. People started taking sides. I stayed quiet until I released the full audio recording. The legal team took it from there. They filed to have the case reopened. Jake was subpoenaed. Under pressure, he got sloppy. In a last-ditch meeting, he confronted Matt, not realizing Matt was recording too. Said, "Even if I did it, they already locked him up. What more do you want?" That was it. The footage, the photo, the recording, it added up. The judge overturned my conviction. My record was cleared. Jake got charged with obstruction and robbery. He broke down when they cuffed him, said it was a mistake, that he was just a kid, that he didn't mean for it to go this far. I didn't say anything. The community started reaching out. Old teachers, co-workers. Even my mom cried when the news came, but I didn't feel proud. I just felt tired. That night, I got a message from someone I didn't know. "You don't know me, but I think your friend did the same thing to my brother last year. Want to talk?" I stared at the screen. Then I typed, "Yeah, I do." The message was from a girl named Teresa. She lived about 2 hours away. Her brother Anthony was doing 18 months for a break-in at a pharmacy. She said the details were too similar to ignore. I called her that night. She picked up on the first ring. Her voice was shaky but determined. She told me Anthony had been hanging out with Jake the summer before my arrest. They'd met at some basketball camp. One night, Jake convinced Anthony to come along while he picked up something from the pharmacy. Jake went in alone. Anthony waited in the car. Next thing Anthony knew, alarms were going off and Jake was sprinting back. He threw a bag in the back seat and told Anthony to drive. Anthony panicked and drove. They got pulled over 3 blocks away. The bag had prescription pills and cash. Jake told the cops it was all Anthony's idea, that Anthony forced him to come along. Anthony had priors for shoplifting when he was 14. The cops believed Jake. Anthony got charged. Jake walked free. I felt sick listening to her. The pattern was right there. Jake picking vulnerable friends, setting them up, walking away clean. Teresa had been trying to help her brother appeal, but nobody would listen. She'd seen my story on social media when everything blew up. She knew I'd understand. We talked for 3 hours that night. She had some evidence, but not enough. Anthony remembered Jake wearing gloves that night, remembered him knowing exactly where the cameras were, but it was all circumstantial. I told her I'd help however I could. The next day, I started digging into Jake's past. I reached out to people from his old schools, his old jobs. Most people didn't want to talk, but a few did. There was William from Jake's freshman year. He'd gotten expelled for stealing from the school store. He swore Jake was with him, but Jake testified he wasn't. There was Diana, who worked with Jake at a restaurant. Money went missing from the register on her shift. She got fired. Jake got promoted. The stories kept coming. Little things, big things, always the same pattern. Jake would befriend someone, get close. Then when something went wrong, they'd take the fall. I started documenting everything, creating timelines, finding connections. Teresa was doing the same on her end. We'd text each other updates throughout the day, compare notes at night. Then Jake's mom called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. She was crying, said Jake was falling apart, that he needed help, that maybe I could talk to him. I told her I couldn't do that. She begged, said he'd been having nightmares, that he kept talking about making things right. I hung up. 10 minutes later, Jake texted me, said he wanted to meet, to explain everything, to apologize properly. I screenshot the message and sent it to Teresa. She called immediately, told me not to go alone, that it could be be a trap, but I was curious and angry and maybe a little stupid. I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop downtown, public place, lots of witnesses. I got there early, sat where I could see the door, recorded everything on my phone. Jake showed up looking rough, dark circles under his eyes, hands shaking. He sat down and immediately started talking. Told me about his dad leaving when he was 12, about his mom working 3 jobs, about feeling invisible, about discovering he was good at lying, at manipulating, at surviving. He said it started small, blaming other kids for things he did, getting out of trouble, getting ahead. Then it became a game, seeing how much he could get away with, how far he could push it. By high school, it was second nature. Find someone trusting, someone who needed a friend, use them, discard them, move on. He looked me in the eyes and said he was sorry, that he'd been in therapy, that he wanted to make amends. I asked him about Anthony. His face went pale. He said that was different, that Anthony was already planning the break-in, that he just went along. I pulled out my phone, showed him Teresa's messages, the evidence she'd gathered. His story started changing, getting defensive, blaming Anthony for being careless, for getting caught. I realized then that he wasn't really sorry. He was scared. Scared I'd keep digging. Scared more people would come forward. Scared his whole life would unravel. I told him to confess, to come clean about Anthony, about everyone else. He laughed, said I had no proof, that nobody would believe a bunch of criminals trying to clear their names. That's when I noticed something. Jake kept checking his phone, glancing at the door, acting nervous in a different way. I pretended to go to the bathroom, walked past the window instead, saw a car parked outside with someone in it, watching, waiting. I went back to the table. Jake was texting frantically. I grabbed my stuff and said I was leaving. He tried to stop me, said we weren't done talking. I pushed past him, started walking fast, heard footsteps behind me, started running, made it to my car, locked the doors, saw Jake and another guy standing on the sidewalk, watching me drive away. That night I installed new locks, told Teresa what happened. She said her brother had been getting threats in prison, other inmates telling him to stop making noise about his case, to accept his situation. We knew Jake was behind it somehow, but proving it was another thing. I couldn't sleep that night, kept checking the windows, jumping at every sound. This was bigger than I thought. Jake wasn't just some kid who made mistakes. He was calculating, organized, dangerous. The next morning I found my car tires slashed, no cameras in my apartment lot, no witnesses, just a message. Stay quiet or things get worse. I called Teresa, told her maybe we should stop, think about our safety. She said her brother had already lost everything, that backing down now would mean he'd rot in prison for nothing. She was right, but I was scared, really scared, and I knew this was just the beginning. I spent the next few days looking over my shoulder constantly. Every car that drove by too slow made me nervous. Every unknown number that called made my heart race. I'd let it ring, watching the screen until it went to voicemail, then immediately delete whatever message was left without listening. I started taking different routes to work, doubling back through side streets, checking my mirrors obsessively, parking in different spots each day, sometimes walking an extra 3 blocks just to avoid patterns. Basic stuff, but it made me feel slightly safer. My apartment felt less secure than before. I installed a new deadbolt, one of those heavy-duty ones the locksmith said would take serious effort to break, added a security bar to the sliding glass door, even bought one of those doorbell cameras, though I spent more time obsessively checking the footage than actually feeling protected by it. Every delivery person became suspicious. Every neighbor I didn't recognize became a potential threat. Teresa called me one night with news. Her voice was excited but cautious, like she was afraid to hope. She'd found another victim, a girl named Judy from Jake's community college days. She'd been accused of cheating on a final exam. The professor found answer keys in her backpack during a random bag check. Judy swore she didn't put them there, pleaded with anyone who would listen. Nobody believed her. She failed the class, lost her scholarship, dropped out. Her whole life trajectory changed in an instant. Judy remembered Jake being super helpful before the exam, offering to study together in the library, borrowing her backpack to carry some books when his broke. She never connected the dots until Teresa reached out. Now she was angry, ready to talk, the kind of anger that had been simmering for years, waiting for validation. We set up a group chat. Me, Teresa, Judy, started sharing everything we knew, building a timeline of Jake's scams. It went back further than we thought. Middle school even. Always the same pattern. The helpful friend, the convenient access, the perfect setup, the devastating consequences for everyone but him. Judy shared more details as she got comfortable. How Jake had dated her roommate briefly, giving him access to their dorm room. How he'd known exactly which professor did random bag checks. How he'd suggested she bring her backpack that day instead of just notebooks. Every detail perfectly orchestrated. Then William reached out. Remember him from Jake's freshman year? He'd been following my story online, said he wanted to help, had some old text messages saved, screenshots of Jake planning things, talking about easy marks and perfect setups. The messages were chilling in their casualness. Jake discussing ruining lives like he was planning a party. Our group grew to 4, then 5 when Diana joined, then 6, 7, 8. Every few days someone new would reach out, someone Jake had burned, someone ready to speak up. Each story adding another piece to the puzzle, another confirmation that this wasn't coincidence or misunderstanding. This was deliberate, calculated, repeated. Jake must have noticed the online activity, the old posts being shared, the comments piling up, because suddenly he changed tactics, started playing victim harder, posted this long sob story about mental health, about being bullied, about making mistakes as a kid, about how everyone deserves forgiveness and second chances. People ate it up. The comment section filled with support, with people attacking us for cyberbullying him. Some of his friends started defending him online, saying we were just bitter, looking for someone to blame for our own mistakes, claiming we were forming a witch hunt against a good person who'd made a few mistakes. It was frustrating watching him flip the narrative, but we kept collecting evidence, kept building our case. Every new person who joined brought receipts, old messages, photos, witnesses. Then things got weird at work. My supervisor pulled me aside during lunch break, said someone had called asking about my employment, asking if I was reliable, if I had anger issues, if I was stable, if I'd ever threatened anyone. He thought it was strange, so he wanted to let me know. The caller had claimed to be from a background check company, but when my supervisor asked for details, they'd hung up. That same day, Teresa's mom got a call. Someone claiming to be from a collection agency, saying Teresa owed thousands in debt, threatening legal action, garnishing wages, destroying her credit. It was all fake, but it rattled her family. Teresa's mom was already stressed about Anthony. This pushed her to tears. Judy's ex-boyfriend girlfriend suddenly got messages from a fake profile, photos that looked like Judy with another guy, trying to start drama, cause problems in her life. The photos were clearly edited, but in the heat of the moment, they caused a huge fight. Judy spent hours trying to prove they were fake, to explain she was being targeted. We realized Jake was hitting back, using information he'd gathered about us over the years, trying to destabilize our lives, make us back off. It was actually working on some people. 2 members of our group went quiet, stopped responding to messages. One later admitted they couldn't handle the stress. The other just disappeared entirely. I was getting paranoid, started documenting everything. Every weird call, every strange encounter, every online threat. Created a spreadsheet with dates, times, details, screenshots of everything. Teresa was doing the same. We compared notes every night, tried to stay ahead of whatever Jake was planning. The stress was eating at me. I wasn't sleeping well, jumping at shadows. My work performance started suffering. Then Anthony called Teresa from prison, said a guy had approached him in the yard, offered to make his problems go away if he just stopped talking about Jake. When Anthony refused, the guy said accidents happen in prison all the time, mentioned specific ways people get hurt, made it clear this wasn't an idle threat. Teresa was terrified, wanted to pull Anthony out of general population, but that required lawyers, money, time we didn't have. I decided to try something different. I reached out to Jake's ex-girlfriend, Madison. They'd dated senior year. Bad breakup from what I remembered. She agreed to meet at a restaurant downtown. Seemed nervous but curious. Kept looking around like she expected Jake to appear. Madison told me Jake had been controlling, manipulative, would gaslight her constantly, make her question her own memory, her own judgment. She said the final straw was when money went missing from her mom's purse during a family dinner. Jake convinced everyone Madison's little brother took it. The kid was only 12, got in huge trouble, grounded for months, lost his parents' trust. Months later, Madison found the money in Jake's car. When she confronted him, he said he was just holding it for safekeeping, that she was overreacting, that she was trying to cause problems in their relationship. She had photos from that time, messages where Jake admitted to taking things, to lying. Nothing about framing people specifically, but it showed his pattern, his mindset. She agreed to share them with our group, said she'd been carrying this guilt about her brother for years, how their relationship never fully recovered, how her parents still brought up his theft sometimes. That night, Jake showed up at my apartment, just standing in the parking lot, staring up at my window. I watched him through the blinds for 20 minutes. He never moved, just stood there, hands in his pockets, face expressionless. I called the police, but he left before they arrived. No crime in standing in a public space, they said. I didn't sleep that night, kept checking the window, jumping at every sound. The next day, I found a note on my car. You're making a mistake. This ends badly for everyone. No signature, but I knew who it was from. The handwriting looked rushed, angry. I kept the note, added it to my growing file, showed it to Teresa. She said she'd gotten one too. So had Judy. Teresa had an idea. What if we got Jake to admit things again? But this time with multiple witnesses, better recording, make it undeniable. It was risky, but we were running out of options. Anthony's situation was getting worse. Jake was escalating. We needed something concrete, something that couldn't be explained away or denied. We planned it carefully, spent hours going over every detail. Judy would reach out to Jake, say she wanted to apologize, to move on, ask to meet. I'd be there secretly recording. Teresa would be backup. William and Diana would be nearby just in case. We even had contingency plans. What if he brought people? What if he got violent? What if he didn't show? Jake agreed to meet Judy at a park. Public, but not too crowded. Perfect for our purposes. I got there early, set up my phone in my jacket pocket, tested the audio, made sure the battery was full. Teresa parked where she could see everything. William and Diana waited by the playground. Everyone checking in via text. Everyone ready. Judy showed up right on time, sat on a bench near the duck pond. Looked nervous but determined. She'd practiced what she was going to say. We'd run through it dozen times. Jake arrived 5 minutes later, sat down but kept distance between them. Started talking immediately, saying he was glad she reached out, that he'd been thinking about the past, about making amends. His voice had that same fake sincerity I remembered. Judy played it perfectly. Said she'd been struggling since college, that losing her scholarship ruined her life, that she just wanted to understand why it happened. Jake started spinning his usual story, about misunderstandings, about being young, about everyone making mistakes. He was good, smooth, almost believable if you didn't know better. Then Judy pushed, asked him directly if he put those answer keys in her bag. His whole demeanor changed, got defensive, said she was trying to trap him, that this was some kind of setup. He stood up to leave, started looking around suspiciously. That's when I stepped out, phone visible, recording everything. Jake's face went white. He looked around, saw Teresa approaching, William and Diana walking over, realized he was surrounded, not physically. We kept our distance, but he knew we were all there, all witnessing, all recording. He tried to run. I followed, not chasing really, just walking, keeping him in sight. He turned a corner, ran straight into 2 more people from our group. Word had spread. People had come on their own, wanting to see him face consequences, wanting to see him squirm the way he'd made them squirm. Jake ended up back at the bench, surrounded by 8 people he'd wronged, all recording, all waiting. He broke down, but not in a guilty way, in an angry way. Started ranting about how we were all losers, how we deserved what happened, how he was smarter than all of us. His mask completely off now, the real Jake finally showing. Then he said it, the thing we needed. Yeah, I set you all up. So what? You think anyone cares? You think this matters? I'll just deny it later. Say you all ganged up on me, edited the videos. Who's gonna believe a bunch of criminals? He was practically spitting the words. Years of superiority complex finally boiling over. That's when someone new spoke up, a woman I didn't recognize. She introduced herself as Joyce, said she was a social worker, had been following our story online, came to see for herself. She'd recorded everything too, from a different angle, with clear audio, professional witness, unbiased, credible. Jake realized his mistake, tried to backtrack, say he was just angry, being sarcastic, but it was too late. We had him on multiple recordings, from multiple angles, admitting to everything. His words clear, undeniable, no way to explain it away. He left quickly after that, practically running to his car. We all stood there for a moment, not celebrating really, just processing. We'd done it. We had proof, real proof, the kind that would hold up, the kind that couldn't be dismissed. That night our group chat was buzzing, everyone sharing their recordings, comparing angles, making sure we had everything backed up, multiple copies, cloud storage, physical drive. lives. Joyce offered to help us organize everything, make it presentable. She knew people who could help, lawyers, advocates, media contacts. But Jake wasn't done. The next morning, Judy's car windshield was smashed. Teresa's mom got more threatening calls. William found his social media hacked, nasty messages sent to his contacts. Jake was lashing out, trying to intimidate us into silence. Desperate now. Dangerous. I was at work when my supervisor called me in again. Said he'd gotten more calls, this time saying I was dangerous, that I'd threatened people, that I had a history of violence. He said he didn't believe it, but corporate was asking questions. My job was now at risk. Years of rebuilding my life potentially undone by more lies. That afternoon, Anthony called Teresa again. The threats in prison had gotten worse. Someone had pushed him downstairs, said next time would be worse. Teresa was crying on the phone, saying maybe we should stop, that it wasn't worth her brother getting hurt. I could hear her mom in the background, equally distraught. But then something unexpected happened. Other inmates started protecting Anthony. Turns out some of them had been following our story too, had their own experiences with people like Jake. They formed a sort of protective circle around Anthony. The threats stopped. Even in prison, truth and solidarity mattered. Meanwhile, Jake was spiraling. His social media became unhinged, posting constantly about being persecuted, about conspiracy theories, about everyone being out to get him. His friends started distancing themselves. His job started asking questions, the carefully constructed image crumbling. We decided to release everything at once. All the recordings, all the evidence, all the stories. Created a simple website, put everything in chronological order, made it undeniable, then shared it everywhere. Social media, local news, community boards, anywhere people would listen. The response was immediate. Local news picked it up. Not big national coverage, but enough. People started sharing their own stories about Jake, things we didn't even know about. The pattern went deeper than we'd imagined. Elementary school, summer camps, sports teams, everywhere he'd been, he'd left victims. Jake tried damage control, hired a lawyer, sent cease and desist letters, but we'd been careful. Everything we shared was true, documented, verified. His lawyer dropped him after seeing the evidence. Even legal professionals wouldn't touch this mess. Then the real consequences started. Jake's job fired him. His apartment complex evicted him after multiple complaints. His friends completely cut him off. Even his mom stopped defending him publicly. The isolation he'd inflicted on others finally reaching him. But we weren't satisfied with just social consequences. We wanted real justice. For Anthony especially, still sitting in prison for something he didn't do. Joyce connected us with better lawyers, people who specialized in wrongful convictions, people who understood the system. They reviewed Anthony's case, said with our new evidence they could file for immediate release, maybe even get the conviction overturned entirely. It would take time, but they were optimistic. For the first time in years, Teresa had real hope. Jake made one last desperate move. He showed up at Teresa's house. Her mom was home alone. He pushed his way inside, started demanding Teresa call everything off, said he'd make things right if we just stopped. His desperation palpable, dangerous. Teresa's mom was tough though, grabbed a baseball bat, told him to leave. When he wouldn't, she called 911, said there was an intruder. Jake fled before police arrived, but it was enough. They issued a warrant for his arrest, breaking and entering, criminal trespass, intimidation. They picked him up 2 days later, charged with breaking and entering, intimidation, harassment. His bail was set high. His mom couldn't afford it. He sat in county jail awaiting trial, finally experiencing the system from the other side. That's when more people started coming forward, people we hadn't even found, all with similar stories, all willing to testify. The prosecutor started building additional cases, the robbery that got me locked up, the pharmacy break-in, others we didn't even know about, years of crimes finally being connected. Our group became a support network. We'd meet online every week, share updates, offer encouragement, help each other heal. It wasn't just about Jake anymore. It was about rebuilding our lives, about healing, about preventing this from happening to others. Judy went back to school, got her degree. Diana started her own business. William became an advocate for juvenile justice reform. Everyone finding their own path forward, reclaiming the futures that had been stolen. Anthony's case moved faster than expected. The new evidence was overwhelming. Combined with Jake's other charges, the prosecutor agreed to expedite review. Within 2 months, Anthony was released. Time served. Conviction overturned. Record cleared. Teresa sent me a video of him walking out. She was crying. Her mom was crying. Anthony just looked stunned, like he couldn't believe it was real. They hugged for a long time, years of separation finally ending. We all met up in person for the first time at a restaurant. Anthony was there, finally free. He was quiet at first, institutionalized. But as the night went on, he opened up, thanked everyone, said he'd given up hope until we came along, said knowing people believed him kept him going. Jake's trial started soon after. Multiple charges across multiple jurisdictions. He tried to plea bargain, admit to lesser charges, but prosecutors wanted maximum sentences, wanted to make an example. Sound familiar? Except this time, it was actually deserved. I testified at the main trial. So did Judy, Diana, William, Anthony, Teresa. One by one, we told our stories, showed our evidence, made it clear this wasn't isolated. This was a pattern, a decade of deliberate harm. The jury listened intently. Some shook their heads, some looked angry. Jake's lawyer tried to paint him as troubled, needing help, not punishment. But the evidence was too strong, the pattern too clear, the harm too real. The jury didn't buy it. They saw through the act just like we finally had. Guilty on all counts, sentenced to 15 years total across all cases, eligible for parole in 7. Jake cried when they read the verdict, begged for mercy, said he was sorry, really sorry this time, but sorry for getting caught, not for what he'd done. I felt nothing watching them lead him away. No satisfaction, no closure, just empty. All those years I'd lost, all the pain. For what? So he could feel powerful, smart, superior? The waste of it all was staggering. After the trial, we all went our separate ways mostly. Stayed in touch online, but less frequently. Everyone focused on moving forward, building the lives that had been interrupted, making up for lost time, healing. I got a better job, started taking night classes, slowly rebuilt relationships with family, even started dating someone, Kelly. Met them at a coffee shop. They knew my story, didn't care, said everyone deserves second chances, said the past doesn't define us. Teresa's doing well too, studying law now, wants to help other wrongfully convicted people, says our experience opened her eyes to how broken the system is, how easy it is to destroy someone's life, how hard it is to rebuild. Anthony struggled at first. Prison changes you, but he's getting help, therapy, support groups, has a job now, a girlfriend, still has bad days, but more good ones. He sent me a thank you card last Christmas, just said, "Thank you for believing," made me cry. Sometimes I think about Jake, wonder if he's changed, if prison is teaching him what it taught me, or if he's just planning his next move, finding new marks, new victims. I hope it's the former, but I prepare for the latter. Stay vigilant, because that's the thing about people like Jake. They're everywhere, in schools, workplaces, friendships, looking for weakness, for trust, for opportunity, and most of them never get caught, never face consequences, just leave a trail of destroyed lives, move on to the next target. But sometimes they do get caught. Sometimes the truth comes out, sometimes justice actually happens. It's rare, it's hard, it takes everything you've got, but it's possible. It takes people willing to speak up, to support each other, to keep pushing even when it seems hopeless. That's why I'm sharing this story, not for sympathy, not for revenge, but so maybe someone else will see the pattern, recognize the signs, stand up before it's too late, before years are lost, lives destroyed, futures stolen. And if you're reading this and you've been framed, set up, betrayed, know that you're not alone. That truth has a way of surfacing, that people will believe you, eventually, even if it takes years, even if it seems hopeless, even if the whole world seems against you. Document everything, find others, build your case, don't give up, because somewhere out there are people who will believe you, who will help, who will stand with you. You just have to keep going until you find them. The next few months were quiet, too quiet. Jake was serving his time and most of us were trying to move forward. I'd started seeing Kelly more regularly. We'd grab dinner after my night classes, nothing fancy, just takeout and conversation. They made me laugh, made me forget about everything for a while. Then Teresa called me one afternoon. Her voice was different, worried. She said Jake's cousin Wayne had been reaching out to people, asking questions about the case, about our evidence, about where we lived now. He'd even shown up at Judy's work, just stood outside, watching. I told her it was probably nothing, family being curious, but she wasn't convinced. Said Anthony had noticed someone following him home from work. Same car 3 days in a row. We decided to be careful, stay alert, not panic, but not ignore it either. A week later, I got home to find my apartment door slightly open. Nothing missing, nothing moved, just open, like someone wanted me to know they'd been there. I called the landlord. He said maintenance hadn't been by, no one had access. I changed the locks again, installed more cameras. Judy texted our group that night. Someone had called her job pretending to be a reference checker, asked weird questions about her mental state, her reliability, if she had a history of lying. Her boss thought it was strange and let her know. The number was untraceable. We realized Jake might be orchestrating things from inside, using family, friends, people who still believed his version. Teresa started documenting everything again. We all did. The old paranoia creeping back, the looking over shoulders, the jumping at shadows. Then Diana found something interesting. Jake had been writing letters, lots of them. She knew someone who worked at the prison mailroom. They said Jake was corresponding with at least 12 people, all young guys, all in similar situations, all looking for guidance. We obtained copies of some letters through proper legal channels. Our lawyers filed requests citing ongoing harassment concerns. Jake was positioning himself as some kind of mentor, teaching people his methods, his strategies, how to identify marks, how to set them up, how to walk away clean. He was creating disciples, spreading his poison. I felt sick reading them. He wrote about us too, called us jealous losers, said we'd conspired against him, that he was the real victim. He was rewriting history, creating a narrative where he was the hero, where we were the villains. Teresa wanted to do something, stop him somehow. But our lawyer said writing letters wasn't illegal. Even teaching people to commit crimes was protected as free speech until they actually did something. We were stuck watching him build a network from behind bars. Then one of the recipients reached out to me. A kid named Arthur, 19 years old, said he'd been writing Jake for advice about dealing with bullies. Jake had told him to frame them for theft, get them expelled, ruin their lives before they could ruin his. Arthur was smart though. Googled Jake's name, found our website, read everything, realized he was being groomed, manipulated, turned into the next Jake. He sent me all their correspondence, wanted to help stop this. We added Arthur's letters to our collection, started reaching out to the other people Jake was writing, warning them, showing them the truth. Some listened, some didn't. Some were already too deep in his web. One of them, a guy named Joe, had already started using Jake's techniques, set up his roommate for substance possession, got him kicked out of college, bragged about it in his letters to Jake. We tried to help the roommate, but without proof, there was nothing to do. This was the problem. Jake had found a way to continue his damage from prison, creating mini versions of himself, teaching others to destroy lives. We'd stopped him, but not his influence, not his legacy of harm. I met with our lawyer again, asked if there was anything we could do. She said unless Jake explicitly instructed someone to commit a specific crime, it was just talk, just ideas, protected speech. The system that had failed us before was failing us again. But then Wayne made a mistake. He approached Anthony directly, offered him money to recant his testimony, said Jake could make his life easier inside if Anthony just said he'd lied, that we'd all lied, that we'd forced him to participate. Anthony recorded everything, Wayne admitting Jake had sent him, that there was a plan to discredit all of us, to get Jake's convictions overturned on appeal, to sue us for defamation, to destroy our lives all over again. We took the recording to prosecutors, witness tampering, obstruction of justice, conspiracy, real charges with real consequences. They arrested Wayne 2 days later. He folded immediately, gave up everything, including proof that Jake was directing operations from inside. The prison finally took action, moved Jake to solitary, restricted his communications, monitored his calls, cut off his ability to manipulate from inside. His network crumbled without his constant guidance. The letters stopped, the harassment ended, but the damage was done. Joe's roommate had dropped out. Another kid named Jonathan had been expelled after being framed. 2 more lives derailed. Jake's influence spreading like a virus even from behind bars. We decided to expand our website, add a section about recognizing manipulation, warning signs, red flags, resources for victims. Kelly helped with the design, made it user-friendly, easy to find on search engines. The site got thousands of visits, people sharing their own stories, not just about Jake, but about their own Jakes, the manipulators in their lives, the ones who'd set them up, used them, discarded them. It became a community, a support network. Local schools started inviting us to speak, speak, share our story, teach kids about manipulation, about protecting themselves, about speaking up. Judy was amazing at it, turned her pain into purpose, helped kids recognize the patterns before they became victims. I was nervous the first time I spoke, standing in front of 100 high school students, telling them about the worst night of my life. But then I saw their faces, some nodding, some crying, some recognizing their own experiences. It mattered. It helped. One girl came up after, said her friend was doing similar things, setting people up, getting them in trouble, playing victim. She didn't know what to do. We talked for an hour, gave her resources, told her to document everything, to find others who'd been hurt, to speak up together. A month later, she emailed me. They'd exposed her friend, gotten them help, stopped the pattern before it destroyed more lives. She thanked me, said our story gave her courage, made her realize she wasn't crazy, wasn't alone. This became our new normal. Speaking, teaching, preventing, taking our trauma and turning it into something useful, something that could stop others from going through what we did. It wasn't healing exactly, but it was purpose. Jake tried one more appeal, claimed ineffective counsel, said his lawyer hadn't properly defended him. The appeal was denied. The evidence was too overwhelming. His own words too damning. He was stuck serving his full sentence. No early release, no parole. I went to see him once. Don't know why. Curiosity maybe. Closure. He looked smaller in prison orange. Older. The confidence gone. The swagger disappeared. Just another inmate now. Another number in the system. He tried to manipulate even then. Said he'd found religion. That he was changed. That he wanted to make amends. Apologize properly. I just stared at him. Said nothing. Let him talk. Watched him perform. Saw through every lie. When he finished, I stood up. Told him I forgave him. Not for his sake. For mine. Because carrying that anger was exhausting. Because I had better things to do with my energy. Because I'd won. I'd rebuilt. I'd survived. He looked shocked. Then angry. Then desperate. Started saying I owed him. That without him I'd never have become who I was. That he'd made me stronger. That I should be grateful. The same old manipulation. The same old games. I left without responding. Never went back. Never thought about him much after that. He'd taken enough of my time. My energy. My life. I was done giving him space in my head. Done letting him matter. The website kept growing. Became a resource. A warning system. People would post about potential manipulators. Others would confirm patterns. Share experiences. We'd accidentally created an early warning system. A network of survivors protecting future victims. Kelly and I moved in together. Small apartment but ours. Filled with plants they insisted on buying. Books I collected. Photos of good times. New memories replacing old trauma. Building something healthy. Something real. Teresa graduated law school. Passed the bar. Started working with wrongful conviction cases. Said she'd never forget what we went through. What Anthony suffered. She's helped free 3 people so far. 3 lives saved. 3 futures restored. Anthony's doing better too. Has his own place now. A steady job. Still goes to therapy but less often. He sent me a photo last week. Him and his girlfriend at the beach. Smiling. Free. Living the life that was almost stolen. Judy teaches full-time now. High school psychology. Uses her experience in every lesson. Teaching kids about healthy relationships. About red flags. About trusting their instincts. Her students love her. Call her real. Authentic. Someone who gets it. Diana's business is thriving. Hired 2 employees. Both people who'd been through similar experiences. Giving them chances others wouldn't. Building something positive from something negative. Creating opportunities where there were none. William works with at-risk youth. Counseling. Mentoring. Showing them better paths. He says seeing kids avoid Jake's influence makes everything worth it. Every sleepless night. Every moment of doubt. Every scar. Even Joyce stayed involved. The social worker who'd witnessed Jake's confession. She helped create a training program. Teaching social workers to recognize manipulation. To protect vulnerable kids. To stop patterns before they become tragedies. We still meet sometimes. Not as often. Not as urgently. Just friends now. Bonded by shared trauma but not defined by it. We laugh more than we cry. Talk about futures more than pasts. Celebrate victories more than mourn losses. Last week marked 5 years since my arrest. The night that changed everything. I didn't even remember until Teresa texted me. Time had dulled the anniversary. Made it just another day. That felt like victory too. I'm writing this from my new office. Yeah, I have an office now. Working in IT security. Turns out being paranoid about documentation makes you good at data protection. Who knew trauma could become job skills? Kelly just brought me coffee. Kissed my forehead. Reminded me we have dinner plans. Normal stuff. Regular life. The kind I thought I'd never have. The kind Jake tried to steal. The kind I fought to reclaim. Sometimes new people reach out. Find our website. Share their stories. Ask for help. We respond when we can. Point them to resources. Connect them with others. Keep the network growing. Keep the support flowing. Because that's the thing about surviving something like this. You want to help others survive too. Want to spare them the pain. The years lost. The faith destroyed. Want to be the person you needed when you were drowning. Jake gets out in 2 years. We know. We're ready. The network is stronger now. The documentation better. The support system solid. He'll find a very different world than the one he left. One where his tricks are known. His patterns recognized. His power diminished. But that's future worry. Today I have code to write. Kelly to love. Friends to meet. A life to live. A real life. Built on truth. Sustained by connection. Protected by wisdom earned the hard way. Sometimes I drive past that gas station. The one where it all started. It's a coffee shop now. Gentrification or whatever. I stop sometimes. Get a latte. Sit where I was arrested. Think about how far I've come. How much I've survived. How much I've built. Then I finish my coffee. Get back in my car. Drive home to my life. My real life. The one I chose. The one I earned. The one nobody can take away. Because I have the receipts. The evidence. The truth. And an army of survivors who've got my back. That's my story. Our story. Still being written. Still unfolding. But the hardest chapters are behind us. The villain defeated. The victims victorious. The pattern broken. The future ours to write. Thanks for reading. Share if it helps. Reach out if you need to. Document everything. Trust your gut. Find your people. Fight back. Survive. Thrive. Win. And remember, they're out there. The Jakes of the world. But so are we. The survivors. The fighters. The ones who see through the lies. Who stand up. Who speak out. Who refuse to be victims. Who refuse to let them win. We're everywhere now. Watching. Warning. Waiting. Ready. They should be scared.